Today's topic, the K-Chief Integrated Automation System, or IAS, known as the digital brain of modern ships. Do you think these systems are really smarter than their human operators?
That's a big question. I'd say they're incredibly efficient, handling thousands of data points at once. But smarter than humans? I'm not so sure.
Well, the K-Chief IAS can process real-time information from engines, pumps, navigation, all at lightning speed. Humans can't compete with that speed.
True, but speed isn't everything. Operators bring experience and intuition. The IAS might spot a pressure drop, but knowing whether it's a real emergency or just a sensor glitch, that's where humans shine.
I like that. It reminds me of autopilot in planes. Great for routine, but you still need pilots for the unexpected.
Exactly. The IAS is brilliant at repeating tasks, monitoring, and alerting. But if something out of the ordinary happens, human judgment is irreplaceable.
But do you think as these systems get more advanced, operators risk losing some of their skills? I mean, if the system does everything, what's left for the crew to do?
That's a real concern. There's this phenomenon called automation complacency. When you rely too much on tech, you can get rusty. It's like using GPS so much you forget how to read a map.
Or spell because of autocorrect. But seriously, I've heard some companies now focus on training crews to both operate and troubleshoot these systems just in case something fails.
That's actually essential. The K-Chief can self-diagnose a lot, but if the whole system crashes, you need someone who can go old school and fix things manually.
So, would you say the K-Chief is more of a teammate than a boss?
I'd say so. It's a fantastic assistant, never sleeps, doesn't need coffee breaks, but it still needs direction and oversight.
Speaking of oversight, I read that the system generates tons of alarms. Doesn't that get overwhelming for operators?
Oh, totally. Alarm fatigue is a real issue. When you hear beeping all day, it's easy to start ignoring them, sometimes even the important ones.
That's dangerous. I guess the key is smart alarm management, so only the critical ones get through.
Yes, and that's where both the designers of the system and the operators have to collaborate. Tuning alarms, setting thresholds, it's a balance.
Do you think we'll ever reach a point where ships can run themselves like fully autonomous vessels thanks to systems like K-Chief?
Technically, it's possible for simple routes. But the open sea is unpredictable. Weather, traffic, piracy. I think we're far from fully replacing the human element.
Plus, ships are like small cities. There's always something weird happening, like a random leak or a power dip. Can the system really handle all that?
Not always. It can guide and inform, but sometimes it takes a good old-fashioned gut feeling to spot a problem early.
I bet some operators feel challenged by the system, almost like it's a rival. Who's the real captain here?
Probably. But most would say it's a tool, not a threat. Kind of like how calculators didn't replace mathematicians. They just made the job easier.
That's a good analogy. Have you heard any stories of the K-Chief actually preventing a disaster?
I have, actually. There was a case where it detected a coolant leak before the crew noticed. The system shut down the engine in time, saving a lot of damage.
Impressive. But I suppose there are also stories where operators had to override the system to prevent bigger issues.
Definitely. Sometimes the system's safety protocols are too cautious. Human intervention can keep things running smoothly when the computer would just shut it all down.
So it's about partnership, not competition.
Exactly. Each side has strengths. The system never gets tired, doesn't make emotional decisions. Humans can see the bigger picture.
But then what happens if there's a cyber attack? These systems are digital, after all.
Good point. Cybersecurity is now a huge concern in shipping. The more connected the system, the more vulnerable it is. Training operators to spot suspicious activity is crucial,
So operators now need to be part engineer, part IT security specialist, and part ship captain.
The job's definitely more complex than before, but also more interesting, I think.
For new cadets coming in, do you think the learning curve is tougher now with all this tech?
It is, but many of them grew up with technology. They might adapt faster, but they still need to learn the fundamentals: navigation, mechanics, teamwork.
It's like driving an electric car versus a manual. Both get you there, but knowing how it all works makes you a better driver.
Well put. And when the tech fails, those foundational skills are what save the day.
Looking ahead, what would you improve in the K-Chief IAS?
I'd say more intuitive interfaces. Sometimes the screens are too complex. Maybe even voice commands in the future?
That would be cool. Hey, K-Chief, show me the pump status. Feels very sci-fi.
Who knows? Maybe someday the K-Chief will even crack jokes to keep the operators awake during night shifts.
Now that's a ship I'd like to work on. But jokes aside, do you think we'll ever trust machines entirely with our safety at sea?
I think trust will always need to be earned, not given. As long as humans are responsible for lives and cargo, their judgment is irreplaceable.
Wise words. Maybe the real question isn't if the K-Chief is smarter, but how we use its intelligence to make our work safer and easier.
Absolutely. It's teamwork, combining the best of both worlds for a safer voyage.
And on that note, let's leave our listeners with a thought. In the age of smart ships, what skills should future seafarers focus on? Food for thought.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay curious and may your alarms always be meaningful.